Midwestern Fatmily, have we got a treat for you? Want to ask a fatty IRL? Ready to see my impressive pin collection up close and personal? Then strap in because we are doing our very first live episode of She's All Fat.
We'll be at Flyover Fest, a fashion, politics, and culture festival focused on inclusion and equal representation taking place in downtown Iowa City on April 27th and 28th. Check out the show notes for a link to where you can buy tickets. SAF listeners can get a discount by entering our code She's All Fat at Flyover at checkout.
See you in Iowa!
I want to control everything and want everything my way.
What?
Did you know that?
Calling body posse sisters. Hush those diet culture whispers. We like your body big or small. Rolls and ripples all for all. Sit on down, it's time to chat. She's all fat.
I'm Sophie,
I'm April, and this is She's All Fat.
the podcast for body positivity, radical self-love, and chill vibes only. This week, we'll discuss Arthur the Aardvark, our mental health journeys, and wedding stress. April,
Yes.
what are you obsessed with this week?
Okay, couple things.
Okay.
First one was also our pump up song, so I hope people are checking our pump up songs every week. We got a hot song in there. It is Shawn Mendes put out a new song. It's called Lost in Japan.
Okay.
It's hot. We just
Okay.
listened to it, obviously.
Get you off my mind. Can't get you off my mind. Can't get you off my mind. I can feel the tension. We could cut it with a knife. I know it's more than just a friendship. I can hear you thinking right, yeah.
I love Shawn Mendes. I don't know if you know about him. He was a Vine star. You know how some of the Vine stars have like successfully parlayed into real, and some people are like a joke. He's one of the real good ones.
Great.
Voice of an Angel. He collaborates with Teddy Geiger. Teddy Geiger's like an incredible songwriter, and so all of Shawn Mendes' songs are like real good. So I like this one. It's like a pop jazzy kind of thing.
Does Teddy still go by Teddy? Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Teddy. Teddy's transitioning, but still goes by Teddy.
Cool.
Teddy Geiger's amazing. Stand forever. Yeah, so check out Lost in Japan if you like pop, if you're a pop princess just like me. Other one is Teen Vogue this week did a piece on this new Instagram called Glossier Brown. It's like for women of color who are into Glossier. I love, obviously, you know, we stand for Glossier. I struggle with knowing which products will show up on me because it's so like your skin to better sheer, but sometimes sheer will mean doesn't show up on like dark skin. So it's cool because it's people trying out different products and doing their cool looks with them, and they're all very
that's
beautiful.
awesome.
And
Oh my
I
gosh.
love it. So link in the show notes to Glossier Brown. And finally, meme of the week is an oldie but goodie, Ben Affleck hardcore suffering.
Oh my God.
There's just this photo of Ben Affleck standing outside with a cigarette, just like suffering. Like
Now
there's
that-
no other word for it.
Now that we've seen his apparently real
Tattoo that he tried to lie and say was fake because we hurt his feelings. Ben,
do?
Ben, are you
Tattoos
okay?
take so long. He had so long to stop that.
What a crisis. And it's fully colored. Like, this is forever. But my tweet, which I will link in the show notes, since it's now up for debate, was just to know in general about, like, overhearing white women talking about lean in and stuff, which is, like,
Okay, you didn't
complicated.
say overhearing in the tweet. I'm just saying.
Sophie, I'm not subtweeting you, and if I was subtweeting you, you would know that, because it would reference something very
Yeah,
specific.
they're very obvious when you subtweet
Exactly.
me. I'm just like, just at me.
Exactly.
I know you're talking about me.
Interesting how some people have dogs and cats. Like, you'll know. Anyway, that's what I'm obsessed with. Tell me what you're obsessed with this week.
Okay, I've seen a couple other podcasts do this, or I guess I've heard a couple other podcasts do this, but I want to do a watch with us
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Cool.
So for the first time ever, I'm watching Drag Race as it's happening. I watched the first episode of season 10.
Okay.
So if anyone else is watching RuPaul's Drag Race, we got to come up with a good hashtag for it. You know,
RuPaul's Fat Race, Fat Drag, Fatties Watch Drag.
Fatties Watch Drag.
Okay.
Hashtag Fatties Watch Drag. I will not forget when recently RuPaul got called out for like being bad about trans issues and then accidentally treated the a train flag instead of a trans pride flag. We'll put a link that explains this in the show notes for people who don't know what this is talking about.
Clearly just Googled trans
It's
flag,
really
met
funny.
trans flag.
Yeah. If you're-
Why is there a flag for trans?
So yeah, we'll put a link. Okay, so number one, that's what I wanted to say. Number two, I have a couple tweets that I wanted to share.
All right.
Number one is this tweet that made me laugh a lot this week. It says, "This is the only person using Twitter correctly." And then it's a screenshot of someone whose display name is Buford Montessori.
All right.
Interesting, because we talked about Montessori schools. It has like a picture of like an old white man painting, basically. Okay. And then their @ is Person Respecter. Their location is Moscow, Russia. They're following 69 people. And then their bio is, "You follow me equals I block you."
Oh my God.
And every person that follows them, they just block them. That was one thing. I was like, that is the only way to use this website.
Do not follow me.
Okay, the second thing is just, it's a meme from Lady Bird, whereas if you've seen the trailer for Lady Bird, you know there's a part in Lady Bird where the mom is talking to the daughter, and the daughter gets annoyed and just, like, opens the door and flings herself out of the car, like, really self-righteously.
Yes.
It's just like, I'm done with this.
That's the whole movie.
And, like, people have been tweeting it with, like, annoying situations or something, and Dana Schwartz tweeted it with, "When I'm on a date and the guy starts talking about Bitcoin."
Yep. Open that door.
Just open and throw yourself out.
You gotta escape.
And then finally, my favorite meme this week has been Marvel apparently did a press release where they said the upcoming movie, Avengers Infinity War, is the most ambitious crossover event in history. And people have been taking that quote and then putting like old crossover TV events underneath it and like making jokes about it. And I've really enjoyed those because it's so like self-referential of like millennial like childhood basically. Totally. Mm-hmm. Like I just like recognition memes, I guess. I'm a sucker.
No, I like I'm the same way. I guess it's about nostalgia. I'm like I remember when Hannah Montana went on the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody boat. Exactly. I do.
So I have 3 iterations of this tweet that are like explain the meme. Okay, the first one is Marvel, quote, "Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover event in history." And then me, a picture of the Windows 95 video guide and Jennifer Aniston and what's his name, who played Chandler from Friends are on the front.
Okay, all right.
It's just like the idea of a Windows 95 video guide being a crossover with Friends is really funny to me. Okay, here's when jokes, like when memes get sent into outer space. Okay. Then, like, celebrities aren't really allowed to tweet memes. It has to be the lay people.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so Paris Hilton did one. Ooh. Who said, "Marvel, Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover event in history. Me." And then she posted that, like, old paparazzi picture of her in the front seat of a car with Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears.
Yes. Oh, my God, that's her crossover. Wait, let me see.
That's her crossover event.
That's amazing.
Okay, which is cheating, but also I did retweet it. Okay, and then my friend Manal, who was on private, so we can't link to this tweet, but she did one where I'm going to play the video for you.
What are you doing? You have to stop listening to this rot. It's destroying your brain.
Rot? Are you talking about the Backstreet Boys? The ones who are coming to town in 4 weeks, 6 days, and 57 minutes?
This is a video of when apparently Backstreet Boys guested on Arthur, like the kids' show about an aardvark. Oh, and they like made animated animal, like weird animal versions of Backstreet Boys. It's incredible. Okay, so that's what I'm obsessed with. Let's move on to something we're mutually obsessed with.
Yes.
Which is I'll Go.
I'll Go.
So the like official subtitle or whatever of I'll Go is an accessibility app for plus size people. Basically, it's a review platform for users to rate the comfort and accessibility of places from restaurants to theaters and gyms to airlines. It's something it's an idea that I've seen people talk about all the time. And they're like, man, I wish that this like theater had a Yelp for fat people. Yelp. Yeah. Basically.
Just like, can we all go? Can I go there and be comfortable the same way you would?
Because there's so many times I want to go to a theater or something and I just am like nervous the whole time if like my butt's going to fit into the seat. Mm-hmm. Their Kickstarter, we're going to link in the show notes, and we're going to be like tweeting and posting about it a little bit more on our socials, because this is like something that has been made by fat people for fat people, and it's just like a really cool idea. It's something that we're really supportive of, and we would really love if any of our listeners have any extra money or even just if you can't donate, but you could like retweet or ask friends or something to donate so that they can get the tech aspects of it off the ground, I believe is like their big push right now. We love Olga. We love Rebecca.
We love them. Full disclosure, of course, they did make a donation to our Patreon this week because, in Rebecca's words, she just loves the podcast so much. But regardless, we would be obsessed with Olga even if she didn't donate.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. We're just excited this is happening.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we're really proud to be like mutual supporters, honestly. We're very pumped for that. We love Algo. We'll put all the links in the show notes. Please donate to Algo. Okay, so we are going to be adding a new corner. This is Maria's corner.
Another corner. Bow, bow, bow.
So, as you all know, Maria Wortel is our incredible audio.
Iconic,
She's a beautiful,
patient, creative,
smart, just like every good thing.
Puts up with our bullshit because we're
Honest.
full of it.
She's honest and caring.
Love it.
She is our audio editor and mixer and producer. I still don't know the difference between those terms.
But she does and she doesn't, and thank you.
We literally, April and I, when we were searching for someone to do these jobs, we like made a list of what we would really want. And we talk all the time about how Maria literally is like the answer to our dreams and prayers.
We didn't even know it was possible. We're like, someone that understands the podcast and make it better and I don't know, knows where the plugs go, and we love her.
And like, she's so nice. Yeah, so
she did it.
We really wanted to showcase Maria a little more because like her job is one of those jobs where you kind of mostly notice it if it's bad.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. If you think the podcast sounds consistently good, she's doing a great job.
So Maria has a life outside of just like making us sound less shitty. And that is that she also like really loves film and art and all sorts of stuff. And so we are going to have a little space for her in this like pre-meet of it time of the show where Maria gets to recommend specifically, I think Body Posy movies are like upcoming movies that she thinks would be like interesting for people to watch and talk about.
Cannot wait.
I know, I'm pumped. You guys, Maria's voice, you're going to hear her beautiful little voice.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. All right, so ladies, gentlemen, and the gender nonconforming, welcome Maria Wortel.
Hi, everyone. This feels really weird because I'm usually not on this side of things. But anyways, I just wanted to pop in really quickly to tell you guys that this week I recommend none other than the movie Coco. Now, if you're thinking that's a kids movie, it most definitely is not, and I was definitely in tears for like 90% of the movie. So the reason I actually wanted to recommend it was because I actually found that there was good representation of different kinds of bodies, and that was really refreshing. It's not perfect and it's not great representation, like all the main characters are definitely like straight-sized, but it's better than a lot. And, you know, it just won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, which is pretty good. And, you know, like I said, it was an amazing movie in terms of the subject matter, and it made me cry. And I'm not saying that I want you all to cry, but you should definitely watch it. And maybe have yourself a good cry. Because, you know, I think that's pretty healthy. Anyway, back to Sophie and April.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was incredible.
We haven't heard it yet.
But I'm sure it was so good. I'm so pumped for people to hear your little voice. Okay, let's move on to our review shout-outs. Thank you guys so much for writing reviews for us on Apple Podcasts. One day we will get to New and Noteworthy along with other not new shows. And we appreciate it. You know the drill. Okay, so here's some reviewer shout-outs. Sis Uggs, Tracy Food, Anika Elizabeth, Ashlyn Patrice, Rachel Merkel, AZ_Tora, and Sherry AV. Thank you all. I almost did it again. I almost fucking did it again.
Someone keep a tally how many times we break our own rule in the episode. I know you're going to do it anyway.
Thank you all so much for writing those reviews. We really appreciate it. Write a review on Apple Podcasts to get your own shout out right here on the pod next week or when we get through the list to your name.
It's a long list. All right, and now it's time for our Patreon shout-outs. We got Carly Silverman, Kate Sitka, Margaret Shank, Carrie Price, Maria Guido, and Daly Marone. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much for being part of our Patreon. If you want to help support us, you can become a member of our Patreon and get all sorts of rewards, and all that info is in the show notes. Okay, corrections and news. Someone in our Patreon Facebook group, which you also can be a part of if you join our Patreon at Team Paisley Moo or above. This person, Deborah, did a lot of detailed research for us on this book that we recommended, which is called Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat with Diabetes. But apparently the first edition of this book has it's not like Haze friendly, it has some diet language in it. And so she did like a really long dive into like all the things that are in the first edition. And what I'm going to also link to is what she found later in her research, which is that in the second edition, the author apparently like recognized some of that diet language and took a bunch of it out. So I just want to read a little bit of this blog post from the author. What I discovered was how many subtle weight-related messages had slipped through and needed to be removed or modified. It's not that I promoted weight loss, but the ubiquitous weight focus in our society was present in my words, and at the time, I couldn't see it. As I reread the material through my current lens, I experienced feelings of confusion, embarrassment, regret, guilt, and even shame. They talk about like changes that they made. So here's one example. The before version is think of someone who stays within her natural weight range. The after version is think of someone who manages her eating effortlessly.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so she went through and like tried to change a bunch of stuff. So she says, but from where I sit now, my before versions reinforced our culture's focus on weight, a focus I believe is feeding disordered eating disorders, shame, guilt, and less health, not more. So she really like owns it. So again, Deborah, the person who like gave us this information, did not read the second edition, so can't totally vouch for it. But just a heads up, if you want to go out and get that book that we wrecked without knowing anything about it, it does have some diet messages in the first edition. So be sure to pick up the second edition, and please let us know if you've read either edition, what you think of it. Also, something cool that we learned today is that someone in our Facebook group used to work at Torrid, I think, and is responsible for them having fans in their changing rooms.
Which is the most incredible thing. If you've ever been sweaty and put on jeans.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So our Facebook group is pretty cool.
It's lit.
Okay.
All right, that's it. We should really get to the meat of it, don't you think?
Let's do it. The meat of it.
This week on The Meat of It, we're talking about our mental health histories, experiences with therapy, and etc.
Yeah, so we just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a lighter ep because we've had some
About mental health.
mental health. I mean, we've had like a couple of ranty eps recently. Those are super important. We've talked about some cool stuff. But one thing that I love doing is talking about mental health resources and our histories and experiences with it, because I think, like talking about weight, it's often a topic that's like really covered in a lot of shame. Mm-hmm. People get embarrassed about it, or people who don't have it but have a friend who has like mental health issues like get awkward talking about it. And I just find such validation in talking about mental health stuff with people who have like similar or related experiences. So we wanted to kind of talk about do a little intro to our own like ideas and histories with mental health stuff, and then talk about how it like interrelates with fatness and weight and stuff.
Totally. And it's just our first time talking about this, but we're going to expand more in future episodes.
Yeah.
Just dipping our toes in. Yeah. Okay, so personal history. So I'll start. I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which I feel like everyone in their 20s is. Like, people are always talking about it, which I guess makes me feel better in that it's kind of like a lot of people are dealing with it. But I didn't know for a long time. So I grew up with a lot of stigma and shame attached to going to therapy, and I always was kind of like not so much serious, but just kind of like stressed out child. And also like I was super anxious and super perfectionistic and kind of just like really obsessed with control, which I still struggle with. I want to control everything and want everything my way.
What?
Did you know that? I'm growing.
Okay, so, I mean, my favorite thing is when April tells me how good I am for her because she can't control me. I love it.
Listen, it's true though. I'm being stretched.
No.
I'm being stretched on a daily basis.
I'm so sorry.
We're all growing. So anyway, so I'm diagnosed with anxiety. I might have other things. We'll find out later in life. But that's where I'm right now. And so I first went to therapy after college, kind of when I moved to LA and was going to start my life as an adult. I was like, you know what, April? it's time.
Yeah.
So I decided to go and was very like, skeptical about the whole process, but figured for me it was just kind of like, it wasn't a question of if I ever needed to go to therapy. It was just a question of like when I was going to be ready.
Yeah.
Because I always needed to go. Like I should have been in therapy at like 5 years old, that kind of person. But I always needed to go, but I just wasn't ready. And so there's lots of issues growing up that I just tried to deal with like, control and trying to be perfect and mental health issues run in my family. I've had some family members. I mean, it's hard because my family's Liberian. We didn't grow up in like, Western culture, so no one knows what things are called. But like I've heard stories where it's like, that sounds like schizophrenia, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely a lot of that. Lots of people had different issues and very much like brushed under, not really dealt with directly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think I'm one of the first people in my family to be like, no, I'm going to go to therapy and get a diagnosis, and not just be like, oh, Aunt Brenda, she is always hearing screams.
Oh my gosh.
Like we have lots of stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
And so I didn't want to continue that pattern of not dealing with your shit.
Yeah.
Which was super hard, but for me, it felt like another thing of being an adult. I was like, I'm going to learn how my taxes work, and I'm going to go to therapy.
Yeah.
It felt like the same kind of pool, sort of.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a little bit of my history. What about you? Tell us what you're diagnosed with.
Oh my gosh, so many
Let's
things.
get into it.
Honestly, I think I touched on these a little bit in the doctor's episode, but I also have anxiety. I've had clinical depression in the past. I have ADD. I also have misophonia, which is like when different noise, like essentially it's an audio processing disorder where like certain noises make me like I cannot not focus on them. Like I think it seems to dovetail with my ADD a lot, which also seems to dovetail with my anxiety a lot. Like they just all are self-recursive.
Intersecting,
Yeah. Like hard to separate, but I only figured out that I have ADD like last year, which was wild because I've had it forever.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of reading about it, and apparently, like, a lot of, especially, like, smart girls don't get diagnosed until they're fully adults, because if you're smart, you can kind of, like, push around a lot of ADD symptoms, basically. Like, I did really well in school. A lot of people get diagnosed with ADD because they do badly in school, and then people are like, oh, what's the issue here? And then it's like, oh, they can't focus because blah. Like, I also had trouble focusing. A lot of schoolwork was very easy for me, and so it didn't require the amount of focus, Also, like, just the way that anxiety kind of, it ends up outing in a lot of physical things for me. Like it interacts with my stomach stuff a lot. When I was like in high school, a lot of times I had a lot of stomach issues, which now I know were partly like just all the GI stuff I have in sensitivities, but also I was told they were psychosomatic, meaning like I was causing them with my anxiety.
Oh, great.
Which could be partly true, but also that still meant, like, that still felt real.
It's still real.
Like, it still makes your stomach hurt.
It's just a weird way to phrase it as, like, your fault if you could calm down, maybe.
Exactly. And
yeah,
then
I've got that, too.
Also, I have night terrors, which is just an anxiety thing as well, and I talked about that before.
The sound of it is out of this world. You do not have to apologize, but truly, I've never heard a scream like that in my life.
Victor says I should apply to re-record the Wilhelm scream.
Literally. I won't recreate it because this is a podcast, but just imagine the worst scream you've ever heard and then 2 steps beyond that.
Well, I think there's someone there to murder me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just, on the other side, I was like,
yeah.
Wow. I'm curious, what did your, like, symptoms look like as a kid? Like, how did, like, when you look back, you're like, oh, that's what that was. Yeah, I kind of want to hear more about that.
Like, I realized fairly recently, like in the last couple of years, that not all kids did this thing where I used to, like, tap my fingers in patterns to like, have something to focus on.
Interesting.
Like, you didn't do that, right?
Well, I had my own patterns too, but not about focus, just about control.
Yeah. I had patterns I would tap my fingers in. I used to have a parent sit with me until I fell asleep, or else I would have night terrors. A lot of my anxiety manifested physically. Like, for example, I got shingles when I was like 6, which is not something kids are supposed to get. I was just kind of sick to my stomach all the time. Again, that's like a either or, like cart horse kind of thing. A lot of my anxiety and like lack of control of what was happening in my family. My parents went through a really harsh divorce, but lack of control around that really led to a lot of my like emotional eating, and then like disordered eating, essentially. Like, a lot of other things led to it, obviously, but like that was definitely a big part of it, like not knowing how to manage those feelings, or like just being a kid and having trouble managing those feelings.
Totally.
What about you?
So it just, for me, it just came as being really aggressively independent. Like, there was a story where I was 2 and I was waiting for my mom to make like a bottle for me, but I used to put like hot chocolate mix in my bottles as a kid because like chubby.
Yeah.
And she was taking forever, and so she came to the kitchen and I was making it myself, and I was like testing the milk on my own hand to see if it was hot enough for the baby, but like I'm the baby.
Oh my God.
And she just like watched in horror because I was like, nobody can do it right but me. Like that whole thing.
Wow.
So I was like that. Yeah, I was like that.
That is so funny.
Always doing stuff like that.
Dang.
It's just wild to think about how, like, as a child, you were just little you.
Yeah.
For me, it's like all the same issues, just in a different way.
Oh my God, totally.
And with less, like, responsibility.
Yeah.
So, just that.
Totally.
But it was very clear as a kid. And I just think, like, had I grown up in a different culture, perhaps some of my issues would have been in check earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I also just think I grew up with a single mom, and, like, she just really did not have time to truly pay attention to this, like, very anxious child.
I think a lot of stuff was happening in my family.
Yeah.
Also, you had the same thing where it's like, if I was getting my homework done, everything was like, it seemed like things were fine.
Oh,
so
totally.
Like, why would they?
What would the signs be if your kids has their shit together?
Exactly.
Totally. Do you remember your first time going to therapy?
Yeah, well, both the first time I was forced to and the first time I wanted to.
Both.
So I was like forced to as a kid because, again, of the like messy divorce. It was like a court-ordered therapist to like figure out a custody arrangement. And so I just walked, like, I was such a little, like, I just walked in and I was like, I'm not talking to you because I already said what I wanted to do, and just like crossed my arms.
Nice.
And then when I was in college, I had like some other family stuff happen, and I like when I literally couldn't get out of bed is when I was like, I need help.
Now's the time. Yeah.
I need help. And I went to like the mental health, like Vaden, which is the health center, and they like have a number of free appointments with a mental health person.
Same thing in our school.
And I just spent the whole first like 3 appointments just sobbing the entire time.
All right.
And then I got my antidepressants, and then became numb. And then, like, after graduation, I was like, I need a therapist now, and got a therapist. And then when Victor and I moved in together, I made us go to a therapist because I was like, I know how anxious I am about everything, and I want someone to help me figure out if, like, negative feelings I'm having are anxiety or, like, issues or whatever. That was very helpful. Honestly, like, our couples therapist was the best, and, like, extremely helpful for me because a lot of issues are much more visible in conversation with another person instead of just being self-reported. You know what I mean?
Totally. Because think about if that were the case. You're like, well, somebody just doesn't understand something.
Exactly. Like, so it was just like,
That's funny.
Yeah, because then our therapist, her name was Lauren, she could be like, Sophie, did you see how, like, you're not actually listening to what he's saying? And I'd be like, and she'd be like, do you hear? And I'd be like, fine. Like, it's just very helpful, and also just like helped me see myself more clearly, which is what I wanted. So like, yeah, I'm actually in the market right now for a new therapist. I like stopped going to my old one, not because she did anything wrong. I just like had been going to her for like 3 years, and I was like, feels like it's time to
Switch it up.
Yeah, get a new person. And I'm looking for a new personal therapist. But like, I love therapy. I think it's like a person. It's like literally a person you're paying to listen and care about you. Not like be your friend.
No,
but like care
pay
about what you're
attention.
saying.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
That's incredible.
It really is. So I know that different therapists have different styles, and some therapists are like here to like give you advice, and some
Yeah.
therapists are just like here to witness and do like gentle prodding or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's so nice when you find someone whose style exactly suits your needs, so it feels like productive. Because for me, it was kind of like, okay, I'm paying you my hard-earned money because I'm out of network.
Yeah.
So I have an objective here, and let's see if we can like hit the nail on the head, or I'm
Yeah.
leaving, basically. And so I was like, listen, my head's in the game. We're doing it. Like when I showed up, I was like, I'm ready. No bullshitting. Let's do it. And I just was excited to have somebody who like totally was like able to rise to the occasion. And I'm like, let's unpack it. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my family, I guess.
God.
Like, let's jump in. And she, I will say, One of my first sessions in therapy, like I would just go in and just like, I used to keep a list on my phone of what I wanted to talk to her and just like read through the bullet points. And then one day I just saw her furiously writing notes and I was like, sorry, what are you writing in the notebook? And she was like, oh, well, I keep notes and I like check in with my other colleagues. And I'm like, can I see it? And she made this face like, no one's ever asked me that before. And she was like, no. And I was just like, I'm doing it right now.
Oh my God.
I'm doing it right now. I was like, what are you talking shit about me in your notebook?
Oh my God.
Yeah. That was like my third session.
You're like, don't talk bad about me, bitch.
Literally. I was like, I already know you're trying it, so let's fucking fight. And I was like, no, you don't have to do this, April.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, my first session, I found her on psychologytoday.com, which, yeah, I totally recommend. You can just go and put in your, like, insurance and if you have any specialties you want her to know about and whatever.
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of other, like, low-cost options for therapy. Mm-hmm. Almost every major city has, like, therapy or mental health centers where you can go in and they'll have like
a sliding scale
costs for what you can afford, or there's like sometimes places where it's like free therapy, and like obviously free resources are like not as fancy as expensive resources, but they exist and they're great. Also, I've had a couple friends tell me that they really like Talkspace, which is the like app.
Mm-hmm. Or you can go to like a psychology department at a university and they need practice.
Training.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's like a lot of options. Just because someone's not like fancy and expensive doesn't mean that they like aren't a great resource.
Oh no, absolutely not. But also, I mean, when I clearly needed to go to therapy but didn't want to, I would say that like it's too expensive or it's too hard to find, when I just meant like, oh, I'm not ready to go to therapy.
Yeah,
like
totally.
I'm not ready to deal with like, I feel shame about it or I'm not ready to talk about my shit or whatever. Yeah. So like I totally want to leave space here to acknowledge those people who are there, because I was there for 23 years.
Oh my God, totally.
Like, I didn't want to go to therapy. I was like, great, therapy is for people who need help. I'm fine.
Oh my God. Meanwhile, it's like we're actually all just like meat sacks rolling around, trying to keep our brain on top of our body, struggling with literally every single interaction is like not just what you're actually trying to do. It's like a combination of every interaction you've had in the past, plus what you were born with.
Yes.
Like
I bring all my sacks of baggage with every interaction. I'm like, you want to leave? You want to leave just like they left?
And they're like, here's your order, ma'am.
Literally, that's me at McDonald's. Don't look at me. Like,
no, I mean,
we're on a journey.
It's like, it's so hard. I see so many of my like Twitter friends just being like they'll do a thread about like their mental health or like what they're dealing with, and then they'll be like, anyways, so sorry to dump this on you.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, wait, no. Like, it's okay.
Totally. And we're all going through it. I mean, I understand the inclination to pretend like you're not, but we are. And if you want to talk about it, I encourage it. And also, if you don't want to talk about it, I get it too.
I don't relate to anyone who doesn't have any of this, honestly.
Do they exist though? What would it be like to not?
Tweet at us if you're a solid, okay person.
Exactly. Silence.
Yeah.
No tweets.
But that's what I'm saying. Everyone's got their thing, you know?
I'm like, don't front. Yeah, so let's get into some of these intersections, because, of course, we got to talk about that overlap here on SAF. Okay, so the first one. How does being fat interact with your anxiety?
I mean, it's really hard to figure out where one stops and one starts. You know what I mean? Like, a big part of my mental health history is, like, disordered eating. Mm-hmm. That's obviously interacted with, like, control over your body issues. What about you?
I would say, like, especially when I was a teenager, it was, so obviously, like, a lot of my anxiety stuff comes through with control issues, like I've talked about. So I kind of thought I could make things go my way if I could control my body. Like, it went hand in hand, kind of. Like, I thought, like, oh, this person will like me if I look like this. I'll get this job or this whatever if I look like this.
Things will be better.
Yeah, things will be better. Like, kind of that whole mindset of, like, once I unlock the thin person within me, I'll have my real life and be my real self or whatever. And so it was all tied to that. And when I could never attain that and I could never stay on whatever crash diet I was on, I felt out of control and I felt more anxious. Like, it was tied in that way. And then it also comes out in just like what we're talking about with Algo, like anxiety about like accessibility about my body and about like, okay, what things am I not going to be able to do because of my fat, and how do I not blame my body for stuff that causes me anxiety? Okay, next one I wrote down, class and ADD.
What do you,
I
can
was
you...
just curious. Because I will say, so a family member of mine who I won't mention because I didn't ask her first also has ADD. For a long time, she didn't get diagnosed just because, like, we couldn't afford therapy. And then when she went to therapy, like, her medication was just so expensive that a lot of times she had to go without it. And then when she did get it, she was like, wow, this is how my brain is supposed to work.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, just if you had any thoughts about that intersection.
Oh, totally. I mean, it kind of cuts both ways because as we, like, have talked about before, I am, like, financially privileged. My family is rich and, like, can, you know, pay for whatever doctor stuff I need. But it's also just that, like, it took a long time to figure out I have ADD. And for a long time, having the, like, all the privileges that I have, like, kind of allowed me to skate by without having to acknowledge how I couldn't do things because of ADD, my ADD, if that makes sense at all.
That makes sense.
Just that, like, I wasn't as concerned about, like, having to, like, necessarily sell 10 stories in a week or else I wouldn't have rent because, like, my parents could help me.
If the productivity was life or death, basically, that maybe you would have had a
I would have maybe known it sooner.
Earlier, okay.
But obviously, like what you're saying, I wouldn't have been able to treat it. You know what I mean? I'm not, like, not trying to sound at all like being rich is, like, a burden.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But, like, it definitely allowed me to, like, just kind of ignore it for a long time because I wasn't forced to, like, face things because I was like, well, I'm fine, like, whatever. Maria, tell me if I sound just like a rich asshole saying that.
I really don't think you do. Because here's the thing. What would make you sound like a rich asshole is if you weren't being self-aware about it. Like, if you were like, what intersection? Everybody, you know what I mean? The blind spot thing. Who knows? Okay, next intersection, I put race and anxiety, question mark.
So I would like to talk about... just kidding.
As a white woman. Yeah, I will say, I mean, I'm jealous of white women in that they totally have, like, I can picture an image from pop culture of a white woman talking about being anxious
like
in media and
Xanax
talking
moms?
about being on Xanax or whatever and having it be fine. But for me, so much of, like, growing up with the whole strong black woman thing really did me a disservice. And then I felt like if I was having a panic attack, like, it didn't align with this person I was supposed to be. So just, like, quickly have your panic attack and keep it pushing. You know what I mean? Like, the media thing and also just, like, the whole societal pressure of black women to be, like, strong and sort of, like, nurturing to other people but not serving their own interests and needs or whatever. It just kept me from being able to acknowledge my shit, and it really held me back for a long time. Going to therapy in the black community is still such a huge, like, stigma. Like,
really?
I can't tell if it's getting better. I'm not sure if it is. But it's just, it really is, it's tied to, sometimes it can be faith stuff. It could be, like, pray harder. It could be just a general weakness. It's worse for black men for sure, because it's like, if you go to therapy, not only are you weak, but you're gay or whatever. There's that. And so it's just like,
Jeez.
There's so much to overcome on that front that, like, when you are ready to do it, you're still trying to sift through all that stigma and all that shame and stuff. So something that is exciting to me that I've been seeing recently, as apparently we'll link in the show notes, there's a website called Therapy for Black Girls, and it's like list of resources for if you want to find a therapist who is a black woman, which I don't have one, but I really want one now. I'm going to use a website. And also just, like, different resources for trying to fight through that kind of shame of, like, it's totally, like, explicitly frowned upon, but, like, how can you break through that and go get the help you need or whatever. All right. And then number 4, medication and bodies.
Yeah.
I'm not on any mental health medications. I could be in the future, but not right now.
I went on antidepressants in college. They exacerbated a lot of my GI issues. I had acid reflux every day to the point where I almost threw up. Really was awful. As I said, gained a bunch of weight. I, like, titrated off of that one last year because I wanted to see, like, where I was. That's when my night terrors started. So, you know, it's you win some, you lose some.
It's lit.
And also, honestly, my birth control or my, like, hormones are also mental health pills, honestly. Like, I feel and think and physically feel so different being on, like, my pills than I do when I'm not. My ADD meds have made it possible for me to take care of my body in a better way. They've made it possible for me to track my eating for my, like, sensitivity stuff. They made it possible for me to, like, set a schedule and go to the gym where I feel better about moving, you know?
Totally.
So it's all interacting.
All right, so my number one question for tying this back to SAF, what are our tips for finding a body positive therapist / making sure the one you have isn't gonna pull some shit on you? I will say, so when the first time it came up in therapy, my therapist asked me, we're talking about my body, but not in a way of like, I don't exactly remember the angle, but we're talking about my body for some reason. And then she asked me, well, do you feel like you want to lose weight or you need to lose weight? And I said, no. And then she said, all right, be clear with your therapist. Like, hey, we're not going to talk about my body in a way where it's like, let's figure out how to lose weight. And if they're cool with that, you keep it pushing. If they're not, you're out the door.
Exactly.
Because that's a space where it's like, I'm here to work on me. I'm like, I deal with enough of that shit in the outside world. I'm not going to come to therapy and feel like you want me to lose weight. Like,
and if like body image or like, you know, diet culture or like your feelings about, you know, wanting to be body positive are something you want to work on in therapy, then you can also find someone who will do that for you.
I think wrapping it up, like, I just want to give some kind of tips for like asking for help, because for me so much of it was just like, I have so much crippling anxiety, I don't know how to reach out in a way that doesn't make me feel like weak or whatever. So like what are our tips?
Well, one thing is, I know that I've had people tell me about experiences in the past where they tried to reach out to me or to other people, but they weren't very clear about it because they were doing the thing where they're like, haha, I think I need help, haha.
Yeah, oh my God, please don't meme your depression
like, don't
away,
do that.
for the love of God.
But like, they're doing it in a very like not clear way, and then I or the other person they were reaching out to like made a joke back or like kind of dismissed it or made them feel bad about it because they didn't understand. Like, I've had someone tell me that and I was like, oh my God, I did not have any idea that that's what you were doing. I'm so sorry. Which is like partly on me, I guess, for not like understanding, but also like, it's okay to ask for help. I realize that some people may do that because they're not clear totally on what's going on, but I just have this fear of people like trying to reach out and then somebody reacts in a way that's not helpful and then they're just like, great, I'll never do that again.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. I've totally experienced that too, where you're like, you can read my mind, right? You can't? Oh, never mind.
So I would say, like, if you probably have that friend who's always like, well, crying after therapy, Instagram story, you know what I mean? Like,
yes. By the way, you will never catch me Instagramming my tears. I'm not that bitch. But I do support those who do.
But if you have that person, you could be like, hey, do you like your therapist? And they'll be like, yeah, here's why, blah, blah, what's up with you? Like, talking to somebody who's very open about it is good. And I would say, like, if you're struggling and you want help, or if you, like, want to start working on some things but you're not sure how, I would just make a quick little list before any conversation you have where you say, like, number one, write down, like, some feelings you want to communicate. Number two, write down if you have any way you want to structure the conversation, meaning like if you want to front load it with like, please don't say this, or like, please don't tell me that. And number three, write down like something to say afterwards so that you have something to transition to if you're feeling uncomfortable.
Oh, that's smart. That's really wise. Yeah, and for the people struggling to reach out, like, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go today.
No.
It's really hard to go, but I hope you get to the place where you're ready to reach out. Yeah. And I hope that the people you choose to reach out to are receptive and supportive because you deserve that.
Also, honestly, if you think you don't need therapy, you're wrong. Every single person in the world needs therapy. It's so good for you. Activism, which is part of what we're doing here, takes a lot of mental health tools. We didn't even dive into that.
Oh, man.
But, like, you know, it's totally okay to be needing some support.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's the meat of it for this week. We've solved mental health.
You're welcome. Jeez. Today's episode is brought to you by Wakandan Cosmetics.
Want the glowing, poreless skin of Lupita Nyong'o and Daniel Kaluuya's effortless dew? Try out Wakandan Cosmetics today.
Got a bearded loved one? Get them Killmonger's spiteful but hot beard oil.
And for the fair-skinned Wakandans in your life, I recommend the Colonizer Concealer. If you'd like to become a beloved advertiser, contact us via our website. Thanks.
And now it's time to ask a fatty. If you want advice, you can send a voice memo of yourself asking a question to FYI@she'sallfatpod.com. You can record it on your computer or the voice memo app on your iPhone. Just keep it short, about 1 minute max. Or if you're shy, you can send us a plain old email at FYI@she'sallfatpod.com, and we might answer your question right here on the show. This week on Ask a Fatty, we have a very special letter from Hannah.
Hi guys, My name is
Hannah.
Next March, my cousin, who is also my best friend, is getting married and has asked me to be her maid of honor. And while I'm super excited for her, I've been a little stressed out myself because all I can think about is all of this weight that I need to lose. I think a big issue we seem to be having is, she's sending me all of these dresses for bridesmaid ideas, and they tend to be very, tight form-fitting gowns that would look great on her body, but not on mine. So I guess my first issue is just that, how do I navigate this time with her, where I want to be a good and supportive friend and help her vision for her special day come true, but I also want to be comfortable and feel beautiful standing up there next to her. And secondary to that, just, my cousin is someone who I've compared myself to my entire life, where I've always seen her body as like the ideal body of like beauty and sexiness, and I'm just stuck with what I have, and I just feel like it's a time to put it to an end, but I just can't seem to get it out of my head, and I really don't want this to be an issue while we're planning, the special moment for her. So any advice you have would be really great.
Hannah, listen, there's so many relatable things you said.
There
Number
really
one,
are.
and I'm stuck with the body I have is the most relatable feeling in the world.
Just what I have.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about being body positive is we can say that all day long, but I also have my moments where I'm
for sure.
this is fine.
I'm and I'm a potato. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, number one, you have the cutest voice. Number two, I love this, Hannah. Number two, this is hard. I feel like weddings or big events are something that we, just as human beings, we look for kind of options of storytelling, which is this big event is coming up and leading up to it, and there's all this stuff to think about, and then it'll culminate in this thing, and then after it, everything will be different.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much going on around it for you.
Yes.
That I'm sure you know this, but just to acknowledge it, none of the storytelling that we put on around these things is real.
No, just a big expensive party.
It's just a party. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean anything about your participation in your cousin's life, apart from just that's nice that she asked you to be a part of it. You're not going to be 50 years from now being and the thing that really happened was Melanie got married and my life was changed forever.
Not at all. Not at all. But I understand the feeling because we live in a society where it's you're first of all, we have all these milestones we're supposed to hit, and you feel now is the time she's getting married, so you feel oh no, I have that pressure, and it's also, oh no, my body doesn't look like her body. Yeah. When in reality, it's that is the reality. We are living in a culture where those are the pressures, but also it's just a party.
You can always just be hey cousin, I don't feel comfortable with these dress choices. Is there something that would be more X, Y, and Z? Is there a way we can ensure that something will be in my size?
Totally.
And a great way to frame that would be hey, I'm so honored and excited to be in your wedding party. I'm so happy to stand up there with you on your special day. I would love to feel super comfortable in my skin when we're doing that, and here's something that could help me with that. What do you think? All you can do is say that. I have heard many stories of people doing that, and it goes great.
Yeah.
And I've heard many stories of people doing a similar thing, and then the person is I don't care, I want everyone to wear these dresses.
Yeah.
And then you kind of don't really have any control over that. No. All you can just do is be okay.
And then you can have fun with it and post photos of yourself looking miserable in this ugly dress. Yeah, exactly. But I hope that maybe she could do something where it's oh, we pick the same color, but everyone can pick their own style that they feel comfortable in. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Every bride is gonna decide how much of a nightmare she wants to be.
Or he. I guess,
or that's true.
Honestly, or they.
Whoever's getting married,
whoever identifies with bride.
Reel it in.
Yeah.
What a nightmare. And also, I talked about earlier in this episode, I totally relate to the feeling of being this milestone didn't happen to me because my body looks like this.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to constantly try to remind yourself hey, listen, I have my own body, I have my own journey, I'm on my own path. I'm not going to check off a box at this time just because person X also did.
It ends up being just kind of a blur and a rush, and hopefully a very joyful one, but like there's just so much more overwhelmingness to the day than you can expect. You know what I mean?
And if you are forced to be uncomfortable in this like Uggo dress that doesn't suit your body or whatever, 6 hours, get through it.
Yeah.
Go to Taco Bell afterwards.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I think like really the only thing you can do is again talk to your cousin, and then also just like. Again, this would be a great opportunity to talk to a therapist.
Totally.
And just be like, hey, what are some strategies I can use?
Some tools to just like remember that you're on your own journey. Because it's so hard to be like, yeah, I'm on my own journey, but that person's journey looks great.
Yeah.
But we really got to put in work to like shift away from that, because all it does is harm you. Like that's all it does. It doesn't serve you at all.
It really sounds to me like you love your cousin a lot and you really want the best for them and want the best for them. And like, I totally see you and see how hard this sounds for you. You're already approaching this with such mindfulness that I really hope that you're able to like find a little bit of peace and relief about it. I don't know, weddings are hard, but like after them I always feel like, oh, that was dumb.
Like I got so worked up. Yeah, because there's so much pressure on it, but at the end of the day it's like, we're going to cha-cha slide, we're going to have a salmon puff, we're getting back in the car.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So keep us posted, Hannah. I hope you get to wear a dress you feel good in, and I hope you Cupid shuffle the night away.
Exactly.
That's all we can hope for.
I hope that you end up being able to feel super comfortable and beautiful, and if you don't, then I hope you can like, you know, make some jokes out of it.
Now let's move on to It's Okay, You Can Ask, a segment Sophie usually dreads, but today she, quote, can't wait to do.
Well, find out the answers to our burning questions like, so DJ Envy is not a DJ.
Or, is everyone still mad at the Dixie Chicks?
Okay, so
She's taking out the big iPhone.
What I have done this week is I always really stress about coming up with these questions.
Yes.
But I took inspiration from a podcast I've mentioned a few times before, Reply All. Where they have a segment called Yes, Yes, No, where the two younger hosts, like, who are more invested in internet culture, will, like, explain a tweet to their older producer, who's always like, what is this tweet? And it usually involves, like, explaining memes, basically. So I took a screenshot of tweets I came across this week that I don't understand.
I'm so ready.
We'll see how many we can get through. Okay, here's the first one I found. Somebody tweeted, when a black woman tells you to, quote, have a blessed day, those words are all in front capitals.
Okay.
How long do you have to get out of her face? And somebody quote tweeted it and said, should have been gone by blessed.
Absolutely.
Is this a thing?
But to me, yes. But to me, it's kind of the same thing as when Southern people are like, bless your heart, but they mean like you're ridiculous.
Yeah.
So have a blessed day, meaning you might get slapped. And I've only experienced this with like Southern black people.
Okay.
Like my mom wouldn't say something like this, but I do kind of understand it, which just means like, it just means you're pissing me off.
Okay, so it's just a like, bless your heart kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Similar.
Okay, here's one.
All right.
Okay, this person tweeted, remember when N-words would...
Sophie's shoulders get so tense when she says N-word.
I don't know. What am I supposed to do?
No, that's what you're supposed to do.
What am I supposed to
Shoulders
do?
up to the ears.
God.
Just stressed. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Oh my God. Remember when Edwards, ending in an A,
All right.
would freestyle and say shit like, quote, ask Beavis, I get nothing but head.
Yes.
And then the reply is, it's just funny how you be air tweeting me, put an address on it if you real. And then the reply to that is, if the Phyla fits? Phyla? F-I-L-A?
Oh, Fila, yeah.
Fits. And then another reply to the first tweet is, R.I.P. Big L. Great. I understand nothing here.
Who's Big L? Wait,
I don't know.
Can I take a look at this?
Yeah.
Air tweeting me is great for instead of subtweeting, just air tweeting.
What does that mean?
I think it means subtweet.
Okay.
Put an address on it if you real. If the Fila fits is disrespectful.
What does this mean?
Fila is just the name of a brand that's not that cool. I don't know who Big L is, though. I wonder if this is, I don't know who these people are. I wonder if this is like a specific lyric of theirs. But basically it seems like someone's like, hey, remember when people used to do really whack like lines? And then this person's like, why are you subtweeting me? And then someone's like, if the Fila fits, like if the shoe fits, like, hey, I wasn't subtweeting you, but you fit the bill. And then someone just said R.I.P. So it seems like they got skewered.
So this is about
Some things about rapping.
This is a style of freestyling that's no longer popular.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, Nicki Minaj used to do this too, where it would be like,
I gotta hit them like red bones with long hair. Fuck with me, your ass is grass. Get a lawn chair.
kind of like a pun, like pun-heavy raps.
Okay, but that's not as cool anymore.
No, that was very like, yeah, Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne 2007 were like doing lots of like
Okay.
puns, and that's kind of subsided a little bit. So maybe they're calling them out on that. It's hard to know because I don't know who they are, but it
What
seems like
is put an address on it if you real mean?
it just means like at me.
Oh.
I'm gonna start using air tweeting. That's great.
Okay. Okay, ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
Okay. This person tweeted, can black boys exist in tracksuits / puffa jackets, PUFFA,
Okay.
without being called roadmen? And someone quote tweeted it and said, never.
Okay. I only sort of know what a roadman is. Let me quick verify with Urban Dictionary. Let's see.
Okay, so this tweet is saying, can like young black men wear these clothing items without having racial stereotypes thrown at them?
Yeah, that's what
and
they're
this person
asking.
is saying like, no.
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
Damn.
Okay.
That's so specific, and wow, I do know that guy.
Okay. And then I have another one. This one's from Facebook.
Okay, ooh, vintage.
Okay, this person shared a link from The Root,
Okay.
and the title is, they said it was private, she said it was on the record. The reality, it's complicated.
Ooh.
Michelle Obama was interviewed by Valerie Jarrett at BET's BET Hers Leading Women Defined Summit.
Okay.
And then Robin Given,
Okay.
who's a writer for the Washington Post, did a write-up of this interview and then was kicked out because they said that it was off the record, but apparently that wasn't made clear to Robin Given or something like that.
Wow, okay.
But the comments underneath it, okay,
All right.
these are two black women talking back and forth.
Okay.
Quote, the network had been scooped and then that's where the hurt lay, end quote. Egos, my exact thought before I even reached this portion of the read. But I can't believe folks at BET have the nerve to have egos. It'd be comical if it wasn't so pathetic because in my world, everything about their network sucks. Next person says, they're the raggediest in terms of paying producers. First person says, not surprised at all. They continue to perpetuate the slave mentality.
Jesus.
The second person says, the whole endeavor is hashtag for the culture with the number 4, but the wealth is not distributed, so white woman shrugging emoji.
Oh my God. Wow, the discourse is popping on this article.
So can you explain to me what they're saying?
Okay. So I don't know about this particular summit, but I will say BET in general has a bad reputation.
Okay.
Number one, for like shitty content, just like pumping out pure trash, and also very little content. So it's a lot of like Tyler Perry movies and stuff and not much new content. And when they do put out new content, they have a bad reputation for like not paying people behind the scenes. But so they're big about like trying to cut corners. They're owned by white people, but like made quote unquote for black people. So people sometimes think the content reads as like inauthentic, which like I would agree.
What is they continue to perpetuate the slave mentality. The whole endeavor is hashtag for the culture, but the wealth is not distributed. So white woman shrugging emoji.
Like they had some event and the tagline, it was BET Awards, and the tagline was like, we got y'all. Like it's like, we're doing this for us. And like, don't you love this black content or whatever. Oh. But then if you read the credits, it's like Richard Stevens. Like it's like the people who are really making money and the people who are like the high level executives are white people. So people feel like they're just making this to kind of like grab black money really quick, but not really that invested in it.
What's the slave mentality?
Wait, so would you read the comment again with that?
Not surprised at all. They continue to perpetuate the slave mentality.
Maybe this is what they mean. Like trying to get sort of Uncle Tom, like trying to get white approval maybe.
Okay, so final question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are there any things that I've learned from this that you could ever see me being allowed to use outside of this?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think, what has happened is you've just encountered a lot of in community conversations with little context. Mm-hmm. Just try to decipher what's up. An interesting thought experiment. I'm going to think of the same thing, like white stuff that I don't understand out of context that needs an explanation.
Yeah. I don't think there is much. I think sometimes you're lying to me about these things.
What do you mean?
Like, sometimes I'm like, do you really not know what dry shampoo
I
is?
swear to God, I did not know what dry shampoo. Like, I've heard people say they were going to use it, but I didn't understand what it was for or how it worked.
Like, sometimes I wonder if the reason that Black people tweeted us that they love this segment, it's because the whole thing is just a prank on me.
You are being very paranoid
Like,
right
if
now.
it's just you being like, yeah, could you explain shrimp cocktails to me?
I know about shrimp
You're just, like,
cocktail.
laughing behind my back. Like, I can't believe she's falling for this.
Really? I promise you that I'm not doing that.
Okay, well, it sounds like something you would do is all I have to say.
I didn't think of doing it is what I mean.
Okay.
If I had thought of it, I would have done it.
Well, thanks for explaining those tweets to me. I will continue to save tweets that I don't understand.
Perfect. All right.
And that's our show. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to the stuff we mentioned today, and don't forget to send us your questions via email or voice recording to FYI@she'sallfatpod.com.
Please make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's super important in making sure people find the show. If you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll give you a shout out on the pod next week.
She's All Fat is created, produced, and hosted by us, Sophie Carter-Kahn and April K. Quio. We are an independent production. If you'd like to support the work we do, you can join our Patreon by visiting patreon.com/she'sallfatpod. When you pledge to be a supporter, you'll get all sorts of goodies and extra content. This week, we're posting more information, resources, and readings about mental health just for our Patreon supporters.
Our music was composed and produced by Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs. Our website was designed by Jesse Fish, and our logo is by Britt Scott. This episode was mixed and edited by Maria Wortel. Our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter handles are @She'sAllFatPod. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever else you get your pods. Bye! All right, Maria's Corner.
Maria's Corner. Okay, guys. We're really going to continue front-loading the show with a lot of bullshit nobody cares about.
They love it. They love us.
Do they love it when we just talk about nothing? Tweet at me if you love it when I talk about nothing. And Anne Maria has to cut out half
Usually
of it.
we cut this down to like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah.